Lord. Oh. Oh God. Hello and Allahu Akbar to all the people of the planet, to the Baha'is. Time is 12:27. Today is 28th of August. Well, my back is getting a little bit better. So I'm going to have to continue the topic that I started with pantheism and what these wrong ideas can do to us. Before I start to go to the topic of these 7 valleys of Baha'u'llah and mysticism in the Baha'i Faith, I will take an introduction to the issue, something that I've briefly spoken before. Sufis in the past, after the Islam, as you know, as soon as Islam comes, the matter of successorship in Islam became a big dispute between the Arabs, which led to the creation of Shiites and Sunnis. Shiites became Iranian. The matter became also national and religious. Iranian, they took advantage of this dispute between the Arabs, investigated the Islam, and they found, by the way, the Shiites are correct. The successorship is clear to them. And since the Arabs, they didn't like it, they, especially because of that, the politician at the time, they adopted a version of Islam would be Shiites in order to separate themselves from the Muslims. But the issue was not clear yet what Islam is, because, as I said, the religion of God is a natural thing, and people are trying to live in that natural environment. Just like the nature revelation of God is in the same way. So they tried to start building houses, reconstructing Islams. As I said before, Mu'tazilite came, who were basically a Persian-based philosophy that was mixing from the ancient Greek to Iranians, everything else, into some kind of a very good, intellectual ideas. And this was not working well with some other people, where the Sufis come in and basically, as a second wave of the reconstruction of the Islam, something for people to see how it works. And it starts with one of the greatest star of the Sufism, a real true Muslims of the time, that he understood perhaps what's going on at the time, and Louis Massinian calls him the Messiah of the East. And his name is Hussein Hallaj, or Hussein ibn Mansur Hallaj. And being Hussein, Baha'u'llah refers to him. He responds to one believer that ask him, "Are you the Hussein returned, the successors of Muhammad III, the one who martyred in Karbala?" And Baha'u'llah says, "Yes, I am the Hussein, whose head was cut off." And then he continues in some places, he says, "And sometimes, I am also the Hussein," he says, "that sometimes I was hung in the air by the gallows," which would be, in my opinion, a reference to the Hussein ibn Mansur Hallaj. Those days there were these ideas that all these Mu'tazilite talks and philosophical talk and intellectual talk is taking us away from the actual practical matter, which is to understand God and reach to Him. There were people that they were dressing in a very rugged way, and they call themselves Sufis. Something like a monks of the Christian, perhaps they learned from them. At this time, Hussein ibn Mansur Hallaj from Shiraz, ironically, where Bab comes, he comes and he says huge things, such as, "Ana al-Haq, I am the truth," he says. Another statement from him is recorded. He says, "Laysa fi jubbati illallah." There is nothing under my robe but Allah. This is a sheer blasphemy according to the, governor of the town, the caliph in Baghdad. They ordered his arrest and they cut him into pieces, literally. And he prophesied once he's killed, there will be a flood in Baghdad, and the Tigris would flood, and it did. This affected, for the first time now, after the first Hussein, who was an Arab, the grandson of Muhammad, died. Now there is a Hussein from Iran and from Shiraz, who also died by the caliph. The man who was not wearing a rugged clothes, but he was dressing very nicely, very properly, and he was a great mystique, in fact. And once he died, it affected the entire poets, the entire scientists of the time. Everybody was talking about him. The entire poetry, I mean, there are more than millions, literally, of lines and thousands of books. There's none of them that has no reference to Hallaj. Many, many places. So, as a result, there were many, many great, people came in, and they tried, this time Sufis, they tried to reconstruct Islam as what it means. There were things in Islam. For example, there is in the Ant, I think number 16, when Solomon, the son of David, says, "And God has taught me the language or speeches of bird." The speeches of bird. This was, something as the Christian nowadays they do. They were trying to think, okay, Solomon, King Solomon, the prophet that they call him, Suleiman and Nabi. The prophet Suleiman had a lot of power, including who knew the speeches of the bird, who could talk to birds. He had wind in his control, a lot of things, a lot of miracles attributed to him. And the Queen Sheba, of course, you heard of him. They brought these ideas of books, mystical book, titles mostly the birds, epistle of the birds, the speeches of the bird, things to do with the birds, in which there are birds, stories, that all kind of birds, they try to go to find out who is the king of the birds. And the king of the bird in the story, for example, of Attar is called Simorq, which means literally in Persian 30 bird. Si means 30, Morq means bird. So the king of the bird is called Simorq, 30 bird. So, and this bird, they go there, and of course they find out there is no bird in the kingdom. The nest is empty. But they find, oh look, we are 30 birds, that we made it here. Maybe we are the 30 birds. You see, 30 birds is us. Some kind of idea that the pantheism, I said, okay, God is in us. We are God once we get together and collectively. This has created a lot of commotion in a lot of philosophers. Some they think if you put us together, we are God. Collectively, we are God. Then others, they say, no, we're manifestation of God, and so on and so forth. A kind of pantheism, but a lot more with a spiritual tone in this pantheism, even if it is Sufis concept. Not everything is God. Definitely bad things are not God. So, and the most famous one of them, really, is the Mantiq or the speeches of bird of Attar. The one that Baha'u'llah brings his name, actually. He says, Attar said, in the Seven Valleys. He has written a very beautiful book, including many others. And there he has the stories of these birds that they go to there. But the same man, which is Attar, is the greatest Sufis in Iran, very respectable. He even was mixed up in the matter of guardianship in Islam. He kind of mixes up caliphs and wali, which are the two words, together. In Islam there is Khalafat, Khilafat or Caliphate, and Velayat, which is guardianship. Sunnis, they go to the Caliphate, they don't accept Velayat, which is guardianship. And the Iranians, which are Shiites, they accept only guardianship and they don't accept Caliphates at all. So, and Caliphs, they believe only in 4 of them, which is Omar, Abu Bakr, Omar, and Osman, and Ali. Shiites, they say the first tree is no good. Ali is the first Imam. They don't call him really Khalifa, Caliph, but they call him Imam. Imam and, 11 after him, which Bab would have been the 12th one of them. So, but Attar mixed things up. He says, okay, there are caliphs for and to Ali, and then he accepts the son of Ali as to be the true caliph. He called him the 5th caliph, and then Hussein the 6th caliph, and then Sadiq, which is the 6th one, or 9th caliph, and it goes on, mix the things up. Matter was very difficult to understand in Islam, this guardianship, and as a result, it brought up these two countries of the Ottoman Empire and the Persian Empire. The issue had to be difficult for the Muslim to know it, because if they could solve this problem, they would have reached to one unity to create one Islamic empire. The level of their understanding in solving this dilemma would make them then safe for not invading the Europe and the Christian countries. But if they cannot understand this, God has made it difficult. If they cannot understand it, then they are not worthy of ruling the world. And they would have to stay divided into Sunni and Shiites, as they were. And because of their fights and the struggle they had, Europe were safe and remained Christians. Because the plan of God had not been to destroy Christianity or even Judaism. It clearly says in the chapter of the cow, those who believe in God, those who are becoming Christians and Jews, whoever, he says, believe in God and the day of resurrection, God will give them recompense. That means leave the Jews and Christians alone. Clearly the Quran says. There was nothing such as this, that Islam have come to replace Christianity. Was a continental religion, simply because the Christians and the Jews, they did not follow their laws, and their love did not extend to the harsh environment of the Saudi Arabia. And some of the Jews that they were there were all doing business of making idols and selling it to the Arabs. That is why God Muhammad brought Islam, which is a new version, of religion, definitely, that incorporated itself very well with the science. This is why there are many scientists in the Islamic era. Anyways, these are some kind of ideas. Now, has anybody passed these 7 valleys? Are there really truly 7 ways to go to God? That is not truly an Islamic idea. Baha'i Faith is not rejecting it, but does not definitely recognize that this is the only way, or this is the Baha'i way. No. That is definitely not the situation. There are sometimes they ask questions from Baha'u'llah, and Baha'u'llah answers a question that this is what it could be if somebody wants to go to these 7 valleys or 7 things. But could be 9, could be 20, could be 1. Baha'u'llah clearly alludes to it that this is what they say. They call it 7 valleys or 7 cities. He does not say, I am calling it. He says the mystics and the knowledgeables, the wise men of the past, they have said there are 7, process. Then again, in some places of the 7 valleys, that I'm going to be reading it along with you, he says the whole thing can be going in a twinkling of an eye. A person in a twinkling of an eye can just pass that. So very, it's like a light. So you may not go through all these processes at all. Then Baha'u'llah gives some other alternative. I've seen another version of these 7 valleys in the same book that is on the Baha'i website, Baha'i.org. It says the writings of the Supreme Pen, volume 3, where there is these 7 valleys and 4 valleys and the Blessed Masnavi and the Paside Az-Zawarqaiyya, which I said it in Persian, is the repetitions of the same thing. There is another one. It's called Jawahirul Asrar, the Essences of the Mysteries, where he talks exactly about the same things. But it starts with the city of Talab, and he doesn't call it the valley of the Talab, he calls it the city of Talab. Talab means seeking. And then he calls the, the garden of love. Doesn't call it necessarily a city of love, garden of love. But regularly from the love we have to fall into the ma'rifat, which is knowledge or wisdom, actually, properly translated, the third valley. But Baha'u'llah doesn't talk about it at all. He jumps to the fourth valley, according to the seven valleys, according to a Muslim, would be the valley of unity or oneness. This would be the fourth valley, but Baha'u'llah in this tablet seemingly counted as the third one. But then at the very end, the valley of it says translation for you was absolute nothingness, which is very wrong translation. I understand Shobi Effendi did not want to correct this particular book and let it be translated as it was. Sometimes the believers' work that they've done might be heartbroken. He did that with the Book of Certitude, but didn't do it with seven valleys. Left it probably to us to do it. Because the valley of nothingness does not really render the purpose of and the meaning and the significance of the last valley of the seven valleys. It should be the valley of selflessness. When the selfhood of man, kind of goes away and a God self comes. And properly, Baha'u'llah divides this last valley into two valleys. So the sixth valley becomes a valley of fana, which this translator call it death, which is wrong. It has to be selflessness, the valley of selflessness. But after that, he talks about another valley called the valley of baqa, which means immortality. So, as you can see in the book Jawahirul Asrar, the mystery, the essences of the mysteries, Baha'u'llah actually does not talk about the third valley, omits it. When one goes to the seventh one, as it explained in the seventh valley, he divided it into two parts, of fana and baqa. Fana means where you become selflessness, and result of which is the second valley, would be the valley of baqa, immortality. Strange enough, at the very end, he says, even if you finish this one, he doesn't say it's the end. He says you enter in a different valley that has no name, that nothing can describe it. So all of a sudden, seven valleys become eight valleys. And it changes. So what we're going to say and understand from all of this, that reaching to God, according to Baha'i Faith, the presence of God, and according to Islam, ironically, is not methodical. Very, very beautiful. They ask the same question from the Bab. How do we travel towards God? Climb the ladders towards Him. He quotes the sixth Imam of Islam, the sixth successor of Muhammad. It's called Imam al-Sadiq. And what is his answer to this? Ala qadr khalaiq al-ajma'in. How many ways are to God, he says? As many as there are peoples in the earth. There are 8 billion people, there's 8 billion ways to God, he says. And Bob brings these quotations. That's where the Baha'i Faith really stands. Every one of us are unique. Every one of us. We're billions of points on the planet Earth, that all of them, they sit on one point in the center of Earth. Every one of us have a unique relationship to that point. Though many of us are similar, but at the end of the day, we're all connected together. But it seems as we climb deeper and deeper and deeper into the subject, we get closer and closer to the center and to the point. Even the behavior in the West and East becomes the same thing. Prime example of this, one of my amazing wonderment in the Baha'i Faith. I don't know how much I can talk about this. I never quench my heart to talk about it. Is the existence of Tahira. in the East, a woman equal to all other believers combined, because she was the only woman in that circumstances could get there. It was so tough for a woman to get there. She had to exert a power equal to entire believers. She's the holiest of all the manifestations of God ever. Baha'u'llah, Abdu'l-Baha, Shoghi Effendi, and the Bab, they were born different. They're infallibles. They're not all that human as we know it. But Tahira is. Tahira is. She's not infallible. She's from us. Goes up. This is very difficult. And in my irony, in my wonderment, is the fact that we have more Taurus in America. They are so similar, the two sides of the coin. These are the holiest of the holy, if one wants to know. One man can get really. So, there are many, many ways to reach to God. So the story really then is not methodical. Okay? So, but the biggest things that I'm bringing up the topic today and to talk about it, I'm going to have to get to my second part of this discussions, is to understand these seven valleys, the Sufism, Mysticism, and Islam was created by the people because of the lack of a clear path. It what Islam was. Yes, the writing of Quran, the book of Quran, the writing of Muhammad, once combined with all the writing of successors, carefully studied, can give a very good idea. But people, it took them maybe 700-800 years past before we actually see true Shiites coming. The early Shiites, they were believing only in 5 imams. They didn't have 12 imams. They were all, so that is why these ideologies are coming. So what is the seven valleys? What is this Sufism? What is all of these things? Is created because of the lack of the leadership. Divine, vivid path of Islam was tarnished. In the Bible it says, you Baha'is, they know. He says in the evil, what the letter 666 written, comes and kills those two men, those two shepherds, which are Muhammad and Ali. And the 666 was the year 666 after Christ, when attack was done on Imam Ali, and that day Islam was basically died out in reality, its reality. You know, its purpose was gone astray. Today, people are clinging to Sufism, is looking into it as a substitution for the religion. They say, what's religion? You don't need religion. It was Baha'u'llah, it was Bab, it was Muhammad. They were another one. We're having Sufism. In our religion there are many prophets. There is Sana'i, there is Attar, there is Ghazali, there is Rumi, there is Bastami, there is Shams Tabrizi. Go on, name them, there are many. We don't need a particular one. They've created this as a substitute in competition with the religion of God. The ideology. And the Sufis in competition with the prophet of God. Who's prophet of God, they say. So, you have to understand then, we in the Baha'i Faith, we have clear path. I would hesitate to say mysticism in the Baha'i Faith. Baha'i Faith, all of it is the mysticism. All of it is one entity in reality. In the Baha'i Faith, the truth has got all the component The truth is a response to a man. His answer, where he comes from, where he has to go, and where is his climax. All of it. That includes he's going properly in the bathroom. That includes he properly eat his food. That includes he properly have sex with his wife. That includes properly how he deals every day in the society with people, how he behaves. It includes his politeness, his mannerism. He's giving all of that is a part of the big picture that makes us a mystic ideas, a mystic way of understanding the truth towards God. So coming to separate part of it as if we don't need Baha'u'llah and the Baha'i Faith, we can simply start with searching, falling in love with our search, come to an understanding about it, and understand the unity that exists in the world, then get exuberant, then go down, then become bewildered, and then wake up to somebody else. It's not going like that. Before any mysticism, before anything starts in the Baha'i Faith, one has to understand this basic fact of the truth. Basic fact. I'll be speaking about it more. But as Abdu'l-Baha says, to realize what the center is and revolve around the center. He says, look, at the solar system, all the planets, they revolve around the center of the sun. Baha'i Faith is too big. Baha'u'llah is too big of a fact of the basic that one says that I don't need it, and I'm going to go there. Then that person has to say God was manifested in Baha'u'llah, and the Baha'i Faith, which is the order of the day, is actually not created for him and for certain people like him. They're exempted from that. What are you saying to God? Like some of the children that I see in Canada or other places. I love you, Dad, but you're wrong. I'll give my life for you, Dad, but you're wrong. I'm going to go my own way. God is not that kind of a daddy. But he can tell him you're wrong. We are too small brothers and sisters to say to him, no, you don't know. I've challenged Baha'u'llah. I confess in front of you. Thousands of times. Every time I had my head bang to the wall. And he wasn't standing to tell me that I told you so. No. He was standing right there, smiling, sometimes crying, to receive me back that it's okay, it's okay. You can do it, you can do it. He would love to get challenged, but how? Which is too dismal, too destitute. You know, we're not even a baby compared to our mother. I don't think our mother is wrong. You know, our distance between him and us is way too big. And it's so big, 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 that he actually has to bring a manifestation so we can understand him. As it is, you don't understand. Do you understand why he's flooding the earth? No. Sometimes it brings all this kind of a thing. The whole planet might go, do you understand? No. Then what do you think? He's careless God? He doesn't know what he's doing? If you don't accept that, then explain what all these things means. See, we don't know. This is why he brings this faith in order to explain to us. So you were going in a competition to say that, oh, I don't accept Baha'u'llah, and he's 40 years going in jail, and 20,000 people died, 113 years, 4 divine authors, 500 books. All of that is not for me. I'm Mr. Special, I don't need it. Is that possible, brothers and sisters? It's not. It's like the highway God has made you. One means this is the highway, all of you can come. I made it common, I made it easy for all of you. And then you're telling him that I don't like your highway, I want to go up the road myself to my own trail. Go ahead. You're not going to get anywhere. It's just logical, isn't it? So this is very important. The first thing is that we have to understand the center. If we're not understanding center, which is Baha'u'llah to revolve around it, and then of course, you know, as we're all just the way we are in love with some wrong figures, some wrong role models, because we feel we see them, was it our time contemporary to us, and we have to, you know, see him and feel him. As a result, you know, you're creating competition for God, and what happens to you? You're going to go astray. This is a very huge matter of fact. So, and finally I'm going to speak about the 7 valleys that I wrote. It's about giving opinion and constructions. So what is really 7 valleys? 7 valleys really, if you look at it, it's for everything. People were observing, how do we get to something? What are the process of getting somewhere that you want, to your goal? And they felt, okay, these are the process. You can apply 7 values into physics and chemistry. Anything. Why? Because first you have a desire to be something or to want something. So study that thing, you go around it, you fall in love with it. Isn't it? Isn't it all musicians, all artists, scientists, that's how they start? And as they fall in love with it, they go and understand it more and more and more. Then at one point became it, it becomes their career. You can apply 7 values to everything. Also reaching to this subtle goal of Godhead and God. As I said, it's not a particular method. How many ways are to God? The Baha'i answer is the one that Islam has given an answer. As many as there are people on the planet. Separating a part of the Baha'i Faith as being mystic and other parts are not, that's very, very derogatory, my friends. Do not do it because it's not practical. Whoever you are, whatever Sufi you are, or whichever way you want to go, the platform, the launching pad, where you have to get launched to go to your ascending to your height of the climax of your character is the Baha'i Faith. This is where things begins. This foundation's very fundamental if you have a problem with it, and you can tailor your desires to fit into it. For example, you don't believe in equality of man and women yet, and then you want to ascend towards God. Go on. You'll find your God. Your Baha'u'llah becomes Ayatollah. That's where it's going to end to. Okay? Because these basics, very basics, principles. If you don't believe religion has to be according to science and logic, things have to be logical and things, then every vain imagination becomes a pathway. As it is. What is resulting into millions of ideologies, cutting the brains of the people into sectarianism, and they all are against each other. Never going to get to any truth like that. It has to be scientific, it has to be logical, it has to be explainable, isn't it? So the foundations. If you don't believe the people of the earth, whether black or white, cannot get there. Many Muslims, they think, oh, it has to be Muslims. Difficult. I have to confess to the fact that when I'm reading this, myself, you know, I'm a poet, myself, a mystic poet. I've written 9 Masnavis. According to many critics, they're very amazing works. And studied, you know, the Sufism. I take it, you know, for granted that everybody else can understand this 4 valleys and 7 valleys. There's a point here, is that the Christians namely the Anglo-Saxons here right now in Canada, have not gone through the course of Islam. If you really want to understand the depth of the writing of Baha'u'llah, what it means, such as 7 valleys, well, then you have to really truly study Islam, you know, how it works and what happened and how these things were. So how would you be able to do when the books are not even translated? Islam remains largely unknown, explained by some opportunists that on all their websites, while they're talking about Quran and God, they have advertisement of how to find sex in town. These are the leaders. They're trying to explain you Islam, so stay away from it. They're actually the most oblivious of all the Muslims of all time, but all the human beings, they don't know no idea about it. So this is what's being done. So I'm going to, this is not the case with all the writing of Baha'u'llah and the Baha'i Faith, that one has to know everything about Islam. But Masnavi, or the Blessed Masnavi, which I explained to you, I'm going to have to get on with these two work of Baha'u'llah, because it's translated, and unfortunately it's not translated all that accurately and loosely. So I have to rephrase some of the words or explain actually what they means. I'm going to take the 7 valleys and 4 valleys. This is difficult. Well, I was talking about my own 7 valleys. All right. I'm reading this one of this Masnavi. I have of the 5 Masnavi I wrote for the 5 elders. One of them is called the Masnavi of Takwin. Takwin means formations. The formative age in the Baha'i Faith is called Asra Takwin. Okay? Asra means age, Takwin means formation. One Masnavi is formation, which talks about how the universe has come and what is the meaning and explanation. There I explained you can find out there are some kind of a 7 process in what human is. The result of the soul and body coming together, I observe to be 7 things that we can actually emanate. The first thing, instead of saying the city of seeking, I say the valley of the instinctive desires, which are 4, I thought. Going to bed, relieving, eating, sleeping, and having sex. 4 things. Sex comes later in the life, until such time the life is like a 2-color picture. When sex, when it comes, becomes a full color. So I said, okay, if our instinctive desires are done properly, it will create a certain mood in us. You can see. The guy eats good food, he falls in a good mood. His bad food, he's not feeling good. His sleep is bad, his bad mood tomorrow. If sleep's good, he's vibrant, get up. You know, same thing with his sex. Sex life is good, he's very balanced, he's not looking around, there's no deficit in him, and he's, you know, goal-oriented person. So, what the instinctive desire takes us to the second valley, or second thing that we show up as a result of it, which are moods. These moods are the beginning of humanity. Because of these moods that we show as a result of instinctive desires, gradually we create habits in us. It becomes a habit in us, so when we eat bad food, we just show certain attitudes, certain behavior. There's something called habit in man, that things becomes his habit. Bad moods, bad habits, good mood, good habits. So habit is the third one. Now, from the instinctive desire, we run into the mood. Mood takes us to habit. A habit, good or bad, it creates ethics. Your neighbor says, hey Tony, can you cut the lawn for me? I say, yes, of course. Or I say that, go to hell, man, you bastard. You show good ethics, bad ethics. Ethics can go up and up and up and up. Takes us to the point that we become environmentalists, come on ethics. We become philanthropists. We become a freedom fighter. Those are all high ethics that we developed as a result. Now, we're on to the fourth one, ethics. The fifth one, which is the result again of the good or bad ethics, is the deed. Now, this is serious. When we get into the deed, we're no longer window shopping. Imagine you see a movie where the good guy saves the other guys and becomes very romantic. You cry even, or you feel exuberant. You're window shopping. Then you keep watching this type of movie because it creates good mood in you. Then it becomes a habit to you. Then from the habit you say that, you know what, I am going to do these things myself. Other day you pass by and see the dog is about to be run over with a car and try to save the car, or the dog, or other time do something else. You see, from window shopping, you go on to possess it. When you start to do things, deed is very important. Now you're trying to become spiritual. You worked, paid hours, you made money. Now you try to give your money to some organization because you're trying to help people, or send some money to some place where there's a tsunami. Or go out and volunteer work to visit people in jail, or go on do some walking in Terry Fox Run. Do something. This is where the deeds starts. Fifth Valley. And as the deed accumulates, what deed is going to do to you? Deed is going to result into attributes. You start to giving, you become giver. You become generous. You start to save life. You become servitude. And if you keep having deeds, creating quality, now you're grabbing, possessing these spiritual qualities. You actually become generous, you're actually becoming kind, you're actually becoming a just person. You see? Once they kick more than 50%, something very strange happens. You enter into the 7 valleys. Which means what? Which means you reactivate something that God has put in you. You're born with it, but none of us get there to activate it. You at that point activate that. Good or bad example is having sex. Age 5 you don't know, age 10 you don't know, age 12 you don't know. Nowadays people might know it at age 12. But age 15 you know that this organ is not just for urinations, it's for reproductions, for sex. You see, organ was there, but you are not grown up to activate it. But at age 15, time helped you, whether you like it or not, to activate this. In the spiritual realm, time doesn't exist. In time, people will not become kind. Because there's no time in the spiritual realm. What is it? I've explained that before. Time gets replaced with the willpower. When you're born, you will be in hell forever if you have no foot to walk away from it. If you have no will to get a urine handicap fully and completely, you have no senses at all. A mosquito sits on you and eats you up. You can't even scream. You have no tongue to talk. You see, that is hell, isn't it? Why? Because there's no will. You don't have will. And that is a requirement in the spiritual realm. No time, brothers and sisters. It's willpower. Develop it. Not will to go and lift things up and buy more houses. Will to do a spiritual things. You see, you're going to have to do it if you want to be alive. Now, as I said, you're rich through willpower enough that just like the movie of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Total Recall, you reach to the computer and push the button, bang, something new happens. You were before a vegetable, an animal, a human, now you're becoming a superhuman. Something that is not the messenger of God, but is not human either. It is something in between. And it's something that Jesus Christ is born again. It is something that he says, you like me have to be the children of God, sons of God. Okay? Something in the Baha'i Faith, we call it not the spirit of vegetations, not the spirit of animal, not the spirit of human. What do we call it? The Holy Ghost? No. Something in between. Abdu'l-Baha in some answered question called it the spirit of faith. Something else, you see. It's not human spirit. It is different installations over the human spirit. Now once you know that, you become martyr. Who is going to stop you from 24 hours taking pleasure? And no one knows what that is. Only you know. This is what Seven Valleys really is. This is my reconstruction of the Seven Valleys. Why? Because I am there. I take immense pleasure of it. But I'm greedy. I'd like you to come in. See how the greed turns around to be in the Seven Valleys? The greed in the spiritual realm turns into sharing with others. The more of you to bring in, the more of you to understand. Because you are me. Ignoring you, I've ignored myself. Because that makes Baha'u'llah happy. That makes you happy after you get there. I'm not looking for thank you, believe me. If you thank me, that's it. My recompense is given to me. It's not about that. I'm actually being a selfish person, but a spiritual selfishness that wants to make not the money of this life, but the money of the other life. The more and more of you I save, the more and more of you, as Jesus says, the kingdom of God is like a farmer. I gotta get you out of this crop. You're landing down. I gotta save you. I gotta get you out. The more I do, the more Baha'u'llah is happy. The more everyone is happy. You are happy. It's a parallel happiness. Everyone gets it. No one is the loser there. It's not about winning and losing at all. So, why is it I call it my selfish desires, spiritual desires? It's because I'm imperfect. As long as I remain imperfect, which no one can claim perfection, therefore I'm in the need. Therefore everything that I do spiritually actually ends up perfecting myself. I'm not giving to God nothing. I'm capable of giving. I'm only on the receiving end. I just understand there is a royal bank and then there's a loyal bank. I found how I can transfer the material into the spiritual. So don't thank me for it really, you know. I'm just making myself happier, richer, in a different criteria. Criteria that I'm in it and I know what it is. So, nonetheless, I will be taking on the topic of these 7 valleys, because some of it, as I said, is bad translated. Some of this seems very difficult. It is, of course, it's difficult. The subject I just gave you today was the lump sum, the whole idea. But we're going to study it together, so this demystify this, because unfortunately my Persian colleagues, they're too busy to collect more and more degrees, more and more PhDs, more and more, height given to them by another man. Can you believe it? And then they say, oh, we're doctor this, we're doctor that. And forgetting that they should spend their time for their Western brothers and sisters to honestly, sincerely explain these things. Universal laws of justice is not at fault in this issue. They're not made to create and do these things. They are made to organize what comes out of the Baha'i society, Baha'i organizations. We have to do it. Their job is not to translate this thing, to explain this thing, to hire people to do this thing. They wouldn't. They shouldn't. That has to be, the incentive has to come from us, you see. But many of these Persians that I have seen them, I don't want to bring their names, they talk about mysticism or this or that. I've seen it on the YouTubes. My God, let me be very graphic to you. It is like taking beautiful a steak with a salad right besides a good plate of shit, and they tell me eat it. Their knowledge as a bastard child between the writing of Baha'u'llah, the writing of the Baha'i Faith, and man-made ideology. They mix the things together. And the result of this is to come and give it to you guys as pure knowledge. The Baha'i Faith is so pure. My God, I'm afraid to read anything from anywhere else before I read this. Because those things, they might get installed in your brain, and then you think these guys are big. And you keep quoting them. It's like a virus into your system. They are great when it comes to science, logic, biology, physics, chemistry. They know nothing about what philosophy is, what sociology is. All of their knowledge is nothing but the statistics. That's it. They don't know the human behavior. They still don't know there's a soul. They're psychologists. And you're getting them as a source of learning. I see you are getting infected with a lot of downloads in your brain that you cannot delete it. You don't know how. That's it. Now, with the existence of all these things in your brain, which you can't forget them because you have studied so deeply. I've seen some of these, the barrage of the essays on one of the related site to the Universal Laws of Justice, the magazine called Negah, Look. My God, these are not Baha'i ideas at all. I will sit down in a court of law, if you want, to prove to every one of my colleagues, my Baha'i somebodies, that they just gone totally wrong. They have mismatched things. There are great knowledgeable people in the Baha'i Faith. That is Ishraq Khavari, Abdu'l-Fazail Golpayegani. See, Abdu'l-Fazail Golpayegani studied the Baha'i Faith, the hands of the cause of God. Then, fully in depth, then he goes and writes a book about the other beliefs, Fantastic book he has written. But you can see the Baha'i theme is right there. He is not reading others to learn. He is reading others to know how and why they are wrong. Because he has created the proper criteria in his brain, in his software, by which he measures the truth, by which he measures others. But the new Baha'is, especially Persians, they have installed all these anti-Baha'i criteria in their head from the sociologists and the psychologists of the past, of the present. So many of them, my God. And now they speak about the Baha'i Faith as if they're trying to give favor to Baha'u'llah, that, okay, you are correct, sir. You know, they're trying to use the an-Baha'i criteria to prove Baha'i criteria. And isn't that what Baha'u'llah says in the very first chapter of the Book of Certitude? If you take mortal man, he says, whether high, whether low, if you take them as a measure, as a criteria, to measure what the Prophet of God is, you will be bereft of any divine wisdom. And that's what they're doing. Instead of coming and explaining these things by studying the Baha'i Faith, and they see how these things are related together. And then amongst this group, of course I am the covenant breaker. I'm glad to be. I can't be a part of these groups. I would be ashamed. There has to be, my God, a difference. As Susan Marshall says, I wish I had thousands of these cards to give it away, if that makes them happy. Sad story, guys. It's okay. Believe me, it's okay. The Word of God is working. This is why I am here. And if I am not come to use by you, I will go away, and the next one comes into place. And this covenant, as it's promised, it will not be broken. It is not the covenant that is from before. God has his guardians coming one after another. As Shoghi Effendi says, under the word guardianship, right in the light of guidance. And the guardians will continue to come. Baha'u'llah will choose them to come and elucidate the matter. Oh my Lord, I'm trying to get out, but there are works to do, I guess. A few more. Baha'u'llah be with you. I apologize if I was offensive in certain area, but believe me, it hurts me like hell. Okay, that's why.